So what we're discussing today is job descriptions. So to get to where the job descriptions are created, you go over here to the left where it says organization chart. So now I'm on my organization chart. When you select a box from the organization chart, just by clicking, it opens to the job description for that position. So this is a job description that's been built, and this is what it ends up looking like once you start to create them. So let's talk about just technically how to create job descriptions and what all the functionality of the job descriptions are. And then we're going to talk about how to use job descriptions, because that's the whole point of it. The using of the job descriptions, the managing employees with them is one of the most beneficial ways that you can manage. So we'll talk probably the second half of this session about the using of job descriptions and how to use those in TouchStone. So every box that is on your organization chart will have its own job description. So when you click a role, any position here, just like we did with bookkeeper, it opens to the job description page. And all of the processes that you see here on this job description are here because they are the accountability of this person, the customer service person. So let's go back to the org chart here. So I'm going to add a box to the chart. So to add a box, you just click the little three dots in the bottom right corner for the position you want to add it under. So I click these little three dots and I choose add. So that's how boxes are added. If you add a box to the chart and then you realize, oh, I don't really want it to be under marketing coordinator, you can just drag it and put it on top of the position that you want it to go under, and then TouchStone just moves it under. Once you've added a box, if you select it, it takes you to the job description. If you haven't built the job description yet, this is what it looks like. So the first thing once you add a box that you'll want to do is just title it, because it'll always begin with untitled unless you've put a position name in. So to edit a name or to add a name, you just click this little edit pencil next to the title. It opens up. You just delete the untitled, and you put in the name of the position. So let's call this sales support, just for fun. Usually with your positions, you want to capitalize the first letter of every word so it reads like a title. I only point this out because oftentimes I'm looking at people's accounts and I see either people have done it all caps or all lowercase, and then someone else has come in and done it this way with the first letter capitalized. So whatever way you want to do it is fine, but just make sure it's consistent so it looks and feels the same. Right under the title of the position is this field. It's called the objective. And if you haven't put one in yet, you're going to see this little message saying click to add. And I just click again right on that little edit pencil, and it opens the objective field. So this is the purpose of the position, or it's the reason it exists. So think usually about it's usually a sentence or a phrase. It's typically not sentence after sentence or paragraphs of information. If you start to get too detailed with these objectives, then you're starting in most cases to list the work that they do. So this isn't the place to list the work of the position. The work of the position belongs down here in the process section. So think of this as the purpose of the position, why it exists, what it's meant to do. If you craft these objectives carefully, you can also use them for recruiting ads for the position. Another way I've seen this field used is to put in the qualifications of the position. I think I have an example of that. Maybe here, let me look. No, so this is a good example of a clear objective. Create marketing strategies and objectives and manage the sales department. So you see it's very high level. It doesn't have a whole lot of detail. It's kind of describing the essence. Maybe it's this one. Yeah. So you'll see this objective here, it's a little longer, and it will hold spacing. So if you put a line in, it's going to give you a line between the text. So in this one, I'm showing the education and experience, the requirements for the position, the skills the position has to have. This is stuff that's usually on a job description that you might use for hiring purposes. The job descriptions in TouchStone are not necessarily, they're for training, but not for hiring purposes. They're more on the job, kind of real life. This is the work of the position. But if you have things like this education and experience requirements or skills, you can put them into the objective field. It does kind of make the job description a little longer. So I'm just scrolling up and down here, but you've taken a lot of real estate here with this. Another place to put information like this is to actually build a process and call it experience and skills of the manager of admin and finance. And then in the document tool, you can cut and paste this information in, and that would be another way to have it on the job description if you wanted it to be there. And then you could kind of just drag it to the bottom of the job description and people could go to it. Or you can put it here in this section. So let's go back. I'm going to go back to this sales position that we started. So this is the objective field. Below the objective field, there's two sections to the job description. There's strategic and tactical. Strategic processes are generally higher level processes. So they're developing things, reporting, managing people, building strategies, creating a plan for something. So they're typically higher level type work and generally done by a managerial position. Tactical is the technical work. So it's very common to have on a manager's job description, like this one, there would be a lot of strategic work, having meetings, emergencies, creating the budget, product and service knowledge, managing employees through coaching and training. And then there would be less tactical work. A manager should spend somewhere between 85 to 90% of their time managing and developing. That's what their job is, and less time doing tactical or technical work. So then on a non-managerial position, like this one, there should be the opposite, less strategic and then mostly tactical. If you want to hear the definition again for strategic and tactical, you can go to our resource center and find it in the user guide section. At the end of the day, these are your job descriptions. So whatever you like to see in the strategic section, like this example here, I put some time management things here. This is a non-managerial position, mostly or all tactical work. But if you want time management or analysis that the position does of any kind, you want that work to kind of stand out, you can put it up here in the strategic section. So I'm going to go back here. So when your job description is blank, my computer's spinning for a second. I'm in, our office is an hour north of San Francisco where all the fires are happening, and so we're having internet issues, to say that's probably the least of our issues right now, but if you see my computer spin a little bit, it's because of that. So I'm going to go back here to this blank job description. So on a job description, the way the job description is built is you take processes from the 4 key functions and you link them to the job description. So here's the 4 key functions, and this is where the processes are listed. And then once they're listed here, you link or add them to the job description. So to do that, you click this toolbar item right here called Add Existing Process. Now I'm looking over at the 4 key functions list. What the first question is, do you want these in the strategic or the tactical section of the job description? So if this was a managerial position, I'd probably start with strategic. Since it's not, I'm going to start with tactical. Again, that's just the 2 sections of the job description. Then if I hit this toolbar item, it gives me a drop down, and these are all of my sub-functions from my 4 key functions list. So this is running, guiding, getting, and then these are all the sub-functions that I have. So a good methodology is to think, okay, what is this position? This is a sales position. So I'm most likely the work that happens in the sales department is going to be in getting the business. So you start to look through these sub-functions and choose the work that this position is accountable for. So I chose the sales sub-function. So then I would go and just tick off the boxes for the work I want to add to this position, and then I hit save. And then you see the work or those processes appear. Then you can go back after you've done the first sub-function, strategic or tactical again, hit the sub-function drop-down, and then look in the other one of the other key functions or inside another sub-function. So you choose the other sub-function, and it's going to be the same thing. It shows you the processes that are in that sub-function. You tick off the ones that you want. You don't have to take them all. You can skip, and then you just hit save, and then TouchStone links those processes. So this is one of the reasons why building your 4 key functions first is a good idea. So if you're new to TouchStone and you're just starting in, I always recommend that you build your 4 key functions lists first. So you go to the 4 key functions, start listing out the processes, pull things down from the library that you need or want, and create this master list of processes. They don't need to be documented during that exercise of creating the 4 functions. All you're doing is listing them. Once they're all listed or created here, then you can come and build your org chart, and then you can build all your job descriptions. And you saw how quick it is to do that if the 4 key functions list is done. Because you just go add existing, choose a sub-function, click, 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 save, boom, the job descriptions are built. Once you've built the job description by linking the processes, you can also add processes directly to this job description. So if they're one's built and you're looking at it and thinking, well, I see a process that's missing, you can use this toolbar item right here, add new process, and then you're going to put in the name of your process. So I'm titling it right here, and then I tell, again, strategic or tactical, and then this last question here is asking you where you want it on the 4 key functions list. So even though we're going to add this process directly to this job description, TouchStone still has to keep the 4 key functions a comprehensive list of everything. So look for the sub-function where this fits in, and then you just hit save. And this is it. This is a warning just telling me that I'm about to add a process that already exists, because clearly I've added this before. So I'm just going to put a 1, 2, 3 next to it to save time, and then you hit save. If that happens to you for real, where you get this duplicate title error and you don't know where that process is, just go to the search right here and search the title, and TouchStone will point you to where that process is. So now you see this process has been added here. So either take processes you've already listed on your 4 key functions and use add existing process to link them to the job description, or go here, add new process, and name the processes. I think it's pretty typical that if you've listed everything out in the 4 functions and then you create the job descriptions, it's common or typical to then look at that job description and notice something that's missing. In the 4 key functions, we're looking at things by subject area, by category. Here, we're looking at it more by role or position, what this position actually does. So making that shift, you sometimes can notice that where you've missed things. To the right of this add new process, you see the send print button. This will allow you to print the job description, among other things. So the print here will send it directly to your printer where you can print it. Print to Word will export it to Word. It'll launch Word and then send the job description to Word. PDF is probably the most polished, I would say, of the printing features. So this will launch Adobe, and then you can print it as a PDF. These last 2 options are for printing the operating manual for the position or exporting it to Word. That's this last one. So what that will do is it will print the job description, which is like a table of contents for the operating manual for this position, sales support. So the job description is the table of contents. Then TouchStone's going to print every tool inside of every process. So all the tools here, work plans, checklists, scripts, anything that's been documented in that process will print or export. And it does it in order. It can't print uploaded files because the uploaded files are literally documents that are uploaded. So it can't like launch Word and somehow stick that in. But you'll see a placeholder for the document saying that there should be a document here. If you export it to Word, then you can edit and change it. So you can make page breaks and shift things around if you want. Having said that, this is just my speech about printing. TouchStone is paperless, clearly. It's in the cloud. Everything inside of it is up to date. It's the most current version of everything all the time, everything that you have, all of your standard operating procedures. So the minute you start exporting things, then you're creating other versions. If you export things and change them, like change words or content, well, now you're creating a whole second rendition of that. A lot of people who use TouchStone accounts came to us because they're suffering from what we call SOP chaos. It means you've got processes everywhere. You've got some things here, some things there. Last person that was working for you documented a bunch of stuff and then saved it somewhere. No one knows where it is or if it's even up to date. A lot of people go to the server and do a save as, and suddenly there's 5 versions of something. So try to benefit from the paperless environment in TouchStone by keeping it paperless and training your team to do that as well. If they want to see something, point them to TouchStone to see it instead of printing it and giving it to them. So just some other functionality on the job description. If you want to remove a process from a job description, I'm just hovering over these processes here, and you see this little remove button is popping up. So I would just go here and then click remove. TouchStone say, are you sure? You say okay, and then now that is off the job description. Now it's not gone from TouchStone. It's just removing it from the job description. Even this process, if I was to delete it, even though I added it directly here, it's still on the 4 key functions list. So if you want to know where, if you ever forget, if you click the process, this little breadcrumb trail always shows you where it is on the 4 key functions. So it's in getting the business, in the sales sub-function, and then here's the title. The only way to delete a process permanently is to go to the 4 key functions and literally delete it from there. Removing it from here just removes it from the job description. Everything on here is drag and drop. You see I'm just like dragging up and down to reorder these processes. I can even go from strategic to tactical just by dragging and dropping this way and then that way. So if you put something in the wrong section, strategic or tactical, you just drag and drop to reorder it. What else? I think that's about it for the functionality. If you want to edit the title of a process that you see on a job description, you select it, and then from the process tools page, which we're on right now, you then click and then you edit the process from here. This is also where you can put in the objective of the process. So here is this objective field. Same as the objective of a position, this is the objective of the process. So it's the same thing, the purpose. Why does it exist? This is, again, a sentence or a phrase. These objectives are kind of important because when you look at them on the job description, they appear under the process title. So it's kind of nice from the screen for somebody who's looking at this process title for them to be able to see what's in this process. What's the purpose of this process? What's going to be inside of it? Another reason those objectives are important is when you go to actually document the process, it kind of can give you the scope of the process, like where it starts and where it ends and what the intention of it is. And when you go to document, that's important to know the beginning and the ending and what's all going to be in it. If you're missing objectives, it's going to look like this. You see this one, key performance indicators? This doesn't have an objective. If I click on it, you're going to see this is empty or blank. So when you build your job descriptions, you're going to be able to see quite easily which objectives are missing. As far as the reordering of the processes on a job description, I like to put them in development order here. So if I'm going to work on this one first, then I'm going to put it at the top. These two are red, so I'm going to work on these second and third. These that are blue have got some content in them, so maybe someone's already working on them. And then these are done. And somebody has turned these process titles black as an indication that they're finished with the documentation. So every time a process gets finished, like let's say we're working on this one, you can even have the person working on it go and in the title of the process put like their initials and maybe even like a tentative due date for when it's supposed to be done. So right there I put in my initials and then the due date, and then you see it right here in the title on the job description. So if you're delegating the documentation of processes, like let's say there's 5 salespeople and you're having 2 of them work on the processes, you can put their initials and then a due dates right here. And then it serves as like project management to help you push along the documentation of the processes. Then when the person is finished with the process, the manager's looked at it, it's good to go, they can just click the title here, delete this, then mark it as complete like that, and then this process title's been turned black. I just drag it to the bottom, and now I move up to the top, the next thing I'm going to work on. And then slowly over time, all the processes get documented. Those of you who have had TouchStone for a while and are in the midst of documentation, you know that that slowly over time thing is really real. This isn't something that you finish in 30 days. If you want quality processes done, if you really implement and train and test as you go, you may do one a month in some cases, maybe one a week if you're lucky. But this way of using the job description to kind of monitor what's been done, what's not been done, who's working on what, when's the due date, is just slowly pushing you forward over time. Okay, so let's talk about, one more thing I want to show you. If you click a process, you can go up here where it says link to job description, and this will show you which processes which job descriptions this process has been linked to. So I showed you how to link a process by going add existing process, choosing it, hitting save, and then it links it to the job description. This is another way. So from this view, we're on this direct mail process. I can see that it's on the sales support's job description right here. From this screen, I could link it to other positions just by clicking strategic or tactical, link. Now it's on advertising assistant as well. I can also unlink it from here. So if I see it's on a job description that I no longer want it on, I click this and then TouchStone removes it. And you know because this turned back gray again. So this is just a little help feature that, number one, allows you to see which processes have been linked to which job descriptions. And number two, you can link it and unlink it from this view as well. The time I use this the most is when I've added a new process to TouchStone. So the job descriptions are fully built, people are using them, we're sailing along, and then I'm like, oh, let's add this process. This is missing, or I want to do this now. So add it to the 4 key functions, and then rather than going to the org chart, looking for the position, going add existing process, which is a few steps, I would just go to the process after I added it, link to job description, and link it. Another good way to use this link to job description is just to make sure that all your processes have been linked to positions on the org chart. So this is a good thing to do. It's just an audit of your processes, just making sure that you've got them on the correct job descriptions. It just takes a few seconds of process. So you'd do all of the 4 key functions. If you have this concern at all, I'd recommend this. Go to the first function, like getting the business, click the process, go link to job description, make sure it's on the right positions. that it's been linked and that it's on the correct ones. If it is, close out, hit the back button, go to the next process. Sales follow-up, click it, link to job description. Is it on the right job descriptions? If it isn't, you can edit it from here. If it is, you just hit cancel, back button, go to the next one. So this is just a few clicks per process, but it's a good idea to do just to make sure you haven't missed anything. So I'm going to go back here to the org chart, and then let's go to this position. Okay, so before we start talking about using job descriptions, I just want to point out the connection between the job description here that we just talked about how to build and the dashboard. So on the dashboard, you assign your employees or yourself to a role on the org chart, to a position on the org chart. So in this demo account, I am the manager of admin finance right here. That's my role. And then because I'm a manager, I see these people down here. So these are the employees that I manage. Each of these people here have been assigned a role as well. So Mary's the bookkeeper. When Mary logs into TouchStone, she sees control panel, bookkeeper right here. And since she doesn't manage any other people, she doesn't even have this section. So all of this happens over here in account administration. So right here in account admin, if you're an administrator, you can get to the admin area, and this is where you set up your users right here, and then you assign them control panels right here. So if we look at me, and then we go over here to control panel, you'll see that I'm the admin finance manager right here. Mary, who's right here, has been assigned the bookkeeper. I've just dialed back in. Let me know. Still no audio. Oh, great. Awesome. If you still can't hear me, let me know. I have no idea why I just lost audio. But there are fire trucks zipping down the freeway, and it's like mass chaos here, so I'm not surprised at all. So thank you for bearing with me. So not sure how long you lost me saying, but I'll just repeat this one section, and then we'll move on to the using of job descriptions. Okay, so what I was pointing out is that the control panel is a direct mirror copy of the job description. So whatever processes that are on the job descriptions here, whatever ones you put on these job descriptions, are what appears on the control panel for that position. So right here, I just added a new process to this job description. For those of you who didn't hear, that's what I was doing. And then I was showing that if I go back to the dashboard here and then I choose this position, you'll see that new process I just added right here. One of the great things about the control panel here is that you can organize the processes in any way that you want. On the job descriptions, they're just strategic and tactical. There's no categories, it's just strategic and tactical. But here, where people go to use the processes, you have the ability to create groups. So right here is how you create a group. These are some examples of groups that I have. So this says time management. I've got these 3 processes here. This is a management, and then I've got these managerial processes here. It's all just drag and drop, so you drag it up and down. Once you've created groups and you've organized all your processes into those groups, and then you just refresh, then that default list will go away. And it won't pop back up until you've added a new process to the job description. So just remember that. The job descriptions then dictate or help you to decide what goes into the dashboard for that position or control panel. Okay. A couple other just best practices or tips and techniques that I'll just throw out there. If you have a future organization chart where you're building it for the future, and all the positions on the chart aren't full-time people yet, so you've got people maybe filling more than one role on the org chart, it's a good idea to create multiple job descriptions and then assign those positions to that one person. So if I'm the manager of admin finance right here, maybe temporarily I'm also the receptionist and the bookkeeper. So think about that when you're designing your job descriptions. If you've got a person who does a lot of different work, like across the organization chart, think about creating multiple roles, more like a department, and then having that person be the manager, be the customer service person, be the bookkeeper, maybe even the receptionist. And then over time, as your business grows, you document the processes for that. This person maybe documents the processes for each of these roles, and then you hire people in. That's a far better way to do it than taking all the work of the receptionist, of the bookkeeper, of the customer service, and putting it all on this job description. And then having a job description that's like 50 processes long. So think about what your version of that is. It's a way to help organize things so that you can use the job descriptions to help you grow and help you plan for growth. Another tip is, if you're the manager of a department or even the owner of the company, you don't want to have the work of your subordinates' positions on your own job description. So if I'm the admin finance manager, I don't want to have the bookkeeper's processes on my job description. I want to have them on that person's job description. Because I'm the manager, it's implied that I am accountable for making sure that these people do their work. That's my job as the manager. It's implied. You don't need to put that work on that person's this manager's job description. So if you're trying to get that across to your managers or to if you're the owner to your subordinate positions, that it's their job to make sure that their employees get their work done, do that by having them be the manager and not have this work on their job description. Here on the dashboard, this is just another tip. If I'm this person, I'm the manager, and then let's say John is sick today and doesn't come in to do his work, and I have to do it because I'm the manager, I don't need his work on my job description in order to have access to it. All I need to do is come here to the dashboard, click his name in management review, and now I see all of his processes here. And I can, if I want to remind myself of how to clean, I just click this process, and here it is. This is how I clean the showers, the fitness room. I can even complete checklists. So just remember that the managers, the work of their subordinate positions is all available to them here in this management area, therefore does not need to be on their job description. It'll just make it way too long and confusing. So let's talk about the using of job descriptions. So I've been a manager for a long time, and at the end of the day, if someone said you can have one thing to manage your people with, that one thing I would choose would be a job description. People don't view job descriptions this way because we're used to seeing, or at least I see in a lot of businesses, job descriptions that aren't management tools. They're just like hiring tools. They have a lot of qualities and subjective things and stuff that may be really great for hiring, but for on-the-job training, for management, they're not good. The TouchStone job descriptions are good for that. They're exactly all about that. So the first thing the job description does for a manager is it gives a clear list of accountabilities. So if I look at this bookkeeper's job description, I can clearly see, well articulated, everything that this person needs to be doing. And some of you, that might seem like it's not a big deal, but for those of you who haven't done something or had something like this before, it truly is a big deal. There's a lot of businesses where people come in to be trained, and the manager sits there and says, okay, let's start to make a list of what I'm going to teach you how to do. Let's make a list of your accountabilities, or take notes as I tell you. So that's what this is, and it's forevermore here. The next thing it does is when the processes are documented, it's not just the what the person does, it's the how they do it. So over here are these work plans and step-by-steps for how to do the check deposits, how to make bank deposits. So as the manager, it starts with a job description, but then it fully develops into a complete training system for that employee. So if I'm wanting to hold my employees accountable and make sure that they're doing their work, this becomes a tool for that. A manager's prime accountability is to get results through their people. Get work done by not doing it yourself. Get work done efficiently, productively, by not doing it yourself. In addition, don't micromanage everything. Get that work done through other people with spending the least amount of time possible reviewing it and editing it and looking at it, because that, in a way, is just another version of you doing it yourself. So a manager needs to rise above it, look down, and see the cogs all working together, see their employees getting results without that person having to be there doing it. That is what a good manager does. And the only way that I've seen for that to be able to happen is by having documented processes. So if you have the job description, which is the list of what they do, you have the process documented, then you're well on your way to making that happen. So let's talk about what this looks like on a regular basis. So the first thing is when a manager, one of the manager's key ways to get this result of getting results through other people is by doing training. So this is an example of using the job description for training. So here's Mary here. She's the bookkeeper. These are all the processes on her job description. So this is me as a manager using this for training. I can organize these processes into weeks, so training weeks. So this could be the things she needs to learn in week 1, things she needs to learn in week 2, things she needs in week 3, week 4. So all I've done is taken all the processes from a job description and organized these into weeks. Then how I do that is by thinking, okay, well, what is it possible for her to learn in 1 week? I'm going to teach her this and this. I can think about cash flow planning if I have never done this before and start to say, okay, well, let's put a time to it. If somebody studied this, if they practiced it, if they watched me do it, how long would it typically take them? If you're doing this for the first time, you're going to guesstimate a little bit, but guessing this is way better than not doing it at all. Once you do it once, you're going to get better and better at it. And you're going to be able to then tell for a new employee, are they learning it fast enough? Did I vet them enough when I hired them? Because if I hire Mary here and we're on to week 3 and she's still only learned these 2 things, well, then maybe that's a sign to me that was not a good hire. It also helps for budgeting and for control and scaling your business. Because if I can tell someone, if I can tell my manager that it's going to take me 4 weeks to train up a bookkeeper, and they take that person's salary and the management time and add it all up, well, suddenly I know to get rid of one bookkeeper and hire another. It's going to be a month's worth of work, and it's going to cost me $15,000. It's better to know that ahead of time. It also gives the manager a really sense of control, because a lot of times we live with employees who have bad habits, don't do things well. Maybe we're a bad hire to begin with, and we just feel so stuck because the thought of letting go of that person and having to hire someone new and redo it all is just so overwhelming, you just don't even want to look at it. And I've been there before. This kind of setup gives you some more control. It helps you to really know what to do and have control over that. It also helps with this scenario that we talked about last week. If you have an apprentice position, so this is where we hire people, and then we train them and move them up to here, and then we train them and move them up to here. And once they're a senior tech, we expect them to deliver those products or services profitably, on time, every time, exactly as these people have promised. Then if you think about the job descriptions as being the training, and you start to break it apart into training weeks or months, and you say, this apprentice tech, it's going to cost me $5,000 to train this person, and up here, it's then going to cost me another month and another $5,000 to train them up to here. So this helps with the growing of your operations department and basically your ability to scale and grow. So let's go back here. So new employee training. Super job descriptions are really great for those in this little scenario that I built here. Ongoing training. So ongoing training means holding employees accountable to their training, giving them more training if they need it, giving them additional ways to be trained. So it's analyzing how they're doing the work and then providing them solutions. This is the manager's role. This is how they get results through other people. So a great way to do ongoing training is to implement this little simple tool here that you can download from our library. And you won't be blown away with this, but it's simply how to have an effective training meeting, how to communicate. If I see an issue with an employee, then I need to address it. If it's an emergency, I might go to that person right away and say, hey, you need to fix this, there's this problem. If it's not an emergency, wait for a weekly meeting that you have. Wait for a monthly meeting if it's not weekly. Every employee deserves to have a sit down with their manager on a regular basis. And if you can't do it once a week, then once a month. If you can't do it once a month, then once a quarter. If you're not doing it once a quarter, then you're not being a good manager. I think once a week is great. It doesn't have to be an hour. It can be really quick. And you're just simply sitting down with the employee and you're saying, okay, let's talk about how this week or month went. If I have items to discuss, I'd list them here. So anytime I don't have to interrupt someone to say, give me this, do that, and I could save it for the meeting, well, that's saving time. It's also allowing you to get some perspective on it. Sometimes managers overreact to things, or they say things with energy when they really don't mean it. It's just because you're busy and you haven't had time to think about it. If you just put it on this agenda, know that you're going to get to it during the meeting. It saves everybody time and oftentimes can save conflict. So this is just a simple agenda. These fields are all live, so you're just filling these out, and then once you're preparing, resolve any personal or work issues, goals for this period, for next period, I save it. And now I've got this agenda built for when I sit down with Mary and talk to her about how things are going. If I'm looking at something that she did, or I'm looking at her key indicator report or the sales report that says her conversion rates are down, all that kind of stuff I would save for this meeting. So here's a technique for using the job description as a management tool that I believe is just super fundamental to being a good manager. So let's say I'm meeting with Mary and I notice her conversion rate's down, or I notice that I looked at the receivables report and she was supposed to do collections and I've got like 90 days late for a lot of people. I looked and see she didn't even call them. She's having an issue with some work that she's been doing. I sit down with her and I say, okay, Mary, let's talk about collections. Let's go to TouchStone. Let's go to your under management. She logs in, we log in together. We go to the collections process, which I don't have here. Let's say it's accounts payable instead. So we open the process together. And I say to Mary, this is what I'm seeing. The deposits haven't been made. I went to look at the credit card sheet and you hadn't reconciled it. I really need this because it's really important. What's going wrong with the process? Let's talk about it. Let's look at the process together. So where is it not working for you? Where are the steps where it's falling off? And then we discuss it. Now that's way different than saying, Mary, I told you this is just so wrong, and you're not paying attention to the details, and you never turn that in on time, and you. It's not. That is conflict. That is the kind of management everybody hates. The manager hates it. The employees shut down. It's horrible. It's much better to blame the process. Okay, Mary, let's talk about the process. It says here in the special invoices work plan that on Thursdays at 2, this should be turned in. What happened last Thursday? Let's talk about it. Does that date not work for you? Is there something wrong in the process? Did you not get something to you that you needed? So we're discussing the details of the process and what's not going right. And suddenly Mary has an opportunity to either get retrained because she doesn't get it. We together have an opportunity to decide that the process needs to change because it doesn't work for some reason, but we're making it about the process and not about her. So that is, I think, one of the fundamental skills of a manager, and it can be accomplished simply by the manager realizing that the process is everything. If I didn't have a process for Mary and I didn't have a job description and I didn't really know the dates or the times, I would just be irritated with her that she didn't get it done on time. But the reality of it is I never even trained her in how to do it right in the first place. I advocated that accountability rather than delegating it. So by changing that and using the processes and the job descriptions as a management tool, then your employees will feel more appreciated. Everyone will grow and develop as people, and the things will be much more efficient. Managers can also use job descriptions to decide where an employee needs help. So if I have a customer service position and I've got 2 people filling it, if John is just amazing at his position, he does everything right, he's doing it so great, and Jack kind of stumbles along and makes mistakes and doesn't know what he's doing, well, there's something to be learned by what John's doing. And I want to take that and put it into the processes. I want to understand what he's doing and how he's doing it so well so I can train Jack to be better. Furthermore, I don't want John quitting in or moving to another state and leaving and taking all of that, my intellectual property, with him out the door. Like, it's gone because he's gone. So by creating these job descriptions, documenting the processes, taking a high-level competent employee who's really doing it well and using whatever that person's doing to then train other people on how to be better. I always get asked this question: how do I get employees to use the processes? They don't use them. We try to get them to use them, and they just don't. Well, this one-on-one meeting process is a really great way to get employees to use your documentation, to follow your processes. So here in the one-on-one meetings that happen once a week or once a month, could be once a month. So if those of you are like, oh my God, I can't imagine meeting with people once a week, try it once a month. You're going to realize how great it is, and then you're going to want to do it once a week. So here in this meeting form, this is, first of all, if you're using the processes for training, you're using them for discipline, you might say, or recorrection, that's going to make the processes more relevant to the employees. I think employees stop using processes when the managers stop talking about them. It's not the employee's fault. It's the manager's fault. When the manager stops using them as a management tool, then the employees stop using them. So have something like a process of the week here. It could be collections. So what happens during the process of the week or the process of the month is you say to your finance people, or you say to your sales department, sales follow-up is going to be the process of the week. So I want you guys all to go in and study that process in TouchStone. Make notes to me about what could be better about it, if it's not working right, what could be added to it. I know Jack had a really great follow-up percentage this quarter. Look at that process and add some stuff to it. We're going to talk about it in our next department meeting. Or to an individual employee, we're going to talk about collections in your next weekly meeting. I just want you to look it through, get to the meeting, sit down, go to the process right inside of TouchStone and just start talking about it. Maybe there's nothing to say. Maybe it's great, it's working well, but what the manager has done is they've reinforced to the employee that they're looking at it and that it's important. On the other hand, maybe there is something that's changed. Maybe it could be better. And then you add that. So you're innovating and you're reinforcing all at the same time. And all it took was just bringing it up in a meeting once a week. There is a situation where employees, and somebody's asking this question, so I'm just going to address it. She's just saying, what if you do that and they still don't follow it? So I do have advice for that. I think sometimes employees need context, so they need to know why something's important. So like if we're looking at customer service, for example, a manager who fully knows their processes of their subordinate positions, which they should, understands the context or the purpose or the reasoning behind it. So for scheduling, for example, why is the step-by-step for scheduling so important? Or your daily to-do list. If a salesperson's not doing their daily to-do list, why is that a problem? So every manager should be able to answer this. And if you can't, then maybe that process doesn't belong. Maybe it isn't important. So the context is, why is this important? So if you sit down with the employee and you say, Mary, you haven't done your daily time to-do list. It's in TouchStone. It's super easy. Pull it up on your phone, fill it out, and save it for me once a day. That's all I'm asking. This is why it's important. It's important because this is the way that I track the leads that are being sold. This is the way I know how many referrals are generated that day. This is how I know how long things take, because if you're not filling out your time log, then I don't know how long I should give people to do that. So explain why, because sometimes it's not clear to that employee. And sometimes checklists like this one, for example, they don't have anything to do with the employee. It's a management tool. It's something that I can use to make sure that you're getting your work done without having to ask you. It goes to that manager's ability to manage the process, not the person. It's a tool for the manager. And if the employee understands that and understands why it's important, then they're likely to then do it. Having said all that, sometimes there are just insubordinate employees. There are employees who maybe have worked doing that work so long that they feel kind of bothered by this. It's an annoyance to them. They just think it's a waste of time. Sometimes employees in that situation can be helped to understand the bigger context of what the company is trying to achieve. So the future org chart can help with that. You can say to that employee, we value you so much. I totally understand that you already know how to do all of this, but what we're trying to do is create a culture based around good training, good processes, so that it's clear what people are doing and they know how to do it. Or we're growing the company. We're planning on really great growth, and we really need the processes documented, and we need managers to help with that so that we can get to a situation where we can develop our department. So whatever your version of that is, sometimes explaining that to employees, that it's not just about them, it's about the culture, the bigger company itself. Sometimes that helps. In the end, if you do all that and you have an employee who's refusing to follow a process and refusing to implement what you're trying to do, then I think it's the 3 strikes and you're out rule. It means you sit and talk to them about it once, talk to them about it twice, and then the third time you have to make hard decisions. And I would suggest, and most of the time I'm right, that TouchStone and the processes were not the problem with that employee, that employee has had problems all along, and that this just illuminated it and made it clear. Most of the time, 95% of the time, if people understand the context and the bigger picture, they love stuff like this. They love what TouchStone does because it makes everybody's job easier. I know a few of you still have questions, but I'm going to answer those over email for everyone. Next week, we're going to start talking about how to document processes. So we're going to go here to the process tools page. And for the next 2 weeks, I'm going to talk about how to document a work plan and how to build a good checklist and some of the basic functionality of the process tools page. So we're going to talk about all the functionality, but I'm also going to get into like best practices for building good work plans, how to build your tasks so that they really work, what to be thinking about as you're building out the documentation.